it's one of those things where like, especially when you have like a chunk of money, right? And you're like, oh, am I going to buy more real estate? Am I going to go buy something fun? What are we doing here? And I was pleasantly surprised at how low the startup cost was, because I just had it kind of mentally in my head. Hey, if I can open these stores for less than 100 grand, again, I was thinking of the UPS franchise where I'm like, I'm going to save myself 150 grand, right? And it literally was less than $60,000. And looking back, there are definitely some line items I didn't have to do.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Report. Today, I am super excited because I got a good friend of mine back on the podcast for a second time. She was a former Miss Nevada. I got Miss Lisa Song. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me again. Good to see you.
I appreciate you coming on. You were just out in Vegas this morning, and now you're out here. What were you doing out here in San Diego? You guys had a busy day, it sounds like.
Yes, so just really stacked it full of meetings. In the morning, we stopped by Firestorm headquarters. They are a 3D printing drone company that my VC firm, the Veteran Fund, has invested in, and they're headquartered right here in San Diego. They're about 20 minutes north of where we are right now, and stopped by their headquarters today, got to see what they're working on and their 3D printing machines, the whole thing. It's really amazing. And then popped over to Park Place Mail, which is an independent mailbox store run by one of my students, Ethan, and his business partner, Thor. And that's up in northern San Diego. And it was awesome just to bop around. And now we're here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to dig into the mailbox stuff because I think that's a very lucrative business model that I don't know of a lot of people doing. But you were on about a year ago. It was about early last summer when you came on. I know you're in Fast Lane Drive, so I get to see a little bit. And we had brunch. I think last time we hung out, we had brunch here in Little Italy. You and your is it fiance or husband now?
No, boyfriend.
Boyfriend, okay. You and your boyfriend, and that was a good time. We were hanging out. That was random. We just ran into each other. You guys sat down. We had a little breakfast together. But what have you been up to since?
Just cranking away, just working. Obviously, real estate has not slowed down in Las Vegas at all. I was actually thinking about writing a handwritten thank you card to Gavin Newsom to say thank you for keeping us so busy in Nevada. This is regulations that he's issuing out here in
everyone's
California.
moving out there.
Yeah, exactly. We've been handling actually a lot of 1031 exchanges recently. I think with this year, especially being an election year, you have folks that are making some moves on their investment side. And so definitely really busy with the real estate in Vegas. And of course, the mailbox stores. I mean, it's just been that type of business. We're just seeing more and more, even more mailbox customers because one, shipping is up, but two, you have folks that are starting up side hustles, selling e-commerce and small brands, things like that, and they're getting a mailbox address.
So I got to ask you, so you're putting out a lot of different content and then you're juggling a lot of different things. You got the VC fund, you got the mailbox thing, and then you're investing in real estate as well. And then are you an agent in real estate as well, in addition to all that?
So I'm no longer a buy-sell agent, but I do own a brokerage. It's called Engel Invokers Las Vegas. So Engel Invokers is an international brand headquartered out of Germany, and the North American headquarters are in New York. And they have over 300 locations just in North America. And myself and my partner, Kathy Kuo, we own Las Vegas and Henderson.
Okay, gotcha. So I guess my question is how do you juggle all those different things? And, we all have the same 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
How do you manage all those different things at once?
Well, I definitely don't do anything alone. I have incredible operational partners and business partners in everything that I do. And then we put together, obviously, great teams, great staff. But I'm a big proponent of operational partners. And even since my first business, which was cupcakes back in 2012, I actually worked a full-time job at that time at a law firm and started cupcakes with an operational partner. So that's been, for me, the key.
Yeah, it's something that I'm like learning how to juggle because I feel like although I do have a team, I feel like, it's all these different arms, and where I focus the attention, it grows.
Yes.
And then as soon as I take my attention off of it, then it starts to sacrifice a little bit. And so I'm trying to manage how to keep everything running at an optimal level without it taking a ton of my time, And so it's one of those growing pains as an entrepreneur. And I'm trying to figure that out myself, which is why I asked the question.
Well, with you being a high-level visionary, right, you have a vision for where things can go, or you can already kind of see the pieces start to come together. You need an operator. And of course, you could hire a CEO or a COO, right? But I think there's something different in running the business with a either co-founder or an equity partner, but someone who's an operational partner, right? They're an equity partner who's an operational partner. And as a result, not only are they incentivized differently, but from a mental and an emotional standpoint, they're an owner in that company. And as a result, I think, right, they operate differently. They're going to treat it differently. They're going to prioritize it differently. And so if you come to them and say, look, I'm willing to finance this thing. I'm willing to get it stood up. I'm willing, whatever it is, or clearly here you already have this existing, you could bring in an operational partner and, make it interesting enough for them. But it's not that you have to give away the farm off the bat, right? You can tie it to metrics of the company. You can tie it to length of time. You can tie it to anything that you want to make it interesting for them. But I think operational partner is really a game changer as opposed to a hired gun who is a CEO, COO, and realistically, they could get replaced.
Yeah. It's interesting. I actually was hanging out with a founder, the founder of ClickUp, $4 billion company right now. And he founded that in 2017. The guy's only 35 years old. And he actually lives in the penthouse unit below mine here in downtown San Diego. And for the last year, everyone's like, oh, you got to meet Zeb. You got to meet Zeb. He's only there one day a week because he has like another place out in Rancho Santa Fe. And so finally met him over the weekend. And we ended up like hanging out all night on Saturday night. And the conversation was just like, wow, the knowledge that he has about how to grow like a big business and like all the takeaways was very, very like high level. Just the conversation was insane. But his biggest mistake, he said, was hiring people that were overeducated with a lot of college degrees and also hiring people from big name firms to come in and take on leadership companies within his business. And he said he had to let all those people go. And so he said instead, he likes to hire based on, he doesn't care about college degrees. He likes to hire people that have gone through some sort of adversity in their lives and had to overcome it. And then he also said, always promote from within because your day ones are never going to care the day ones are just going to care a lot more. And so I thought that was an interesting thing. He kept repeating that. And so it's interesting to me to kind of see that. I went to college personally, but all that stuff that I do in entrepreneurship and in real estate investing, I would say almost 99.9% of it, I didn't learn from college. I learned from doing and getting out there and getting the reps in, getting the at-bats in. And so it's interesting to kind of see, maybe outside of like doctors and attorneys and that sort of thing, the level of which a college degree is needed out in the workspace is becoming more and more diminished, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely agree to some extent. I do think there's other benefits to college or postgraduate besides just that piece of paper. And perhaps even just besides the education component, the social component, the life skills or the life experiences that come along with it too. But I've always been an advocate of higher education. I think just coming from the family that I come from, my mom, Korean Tiger mom, right? Like it was not a matter of, are you going to college? It was, are you going to law school or med school? Like, which one is it going to be, right? So by the time I was in junior high, I was like making the decision, right? And so for me, in my opinion, I think law school is the best bang for your buck if you are going to go to college, go to grad school, and if you can do it either debt-free or with minimal debt, I think it's the best bang for your buck. The traditional JD program is only 3 years after your bachelor's degree. And so
What
some
is
people,
what is the JD program again?
that's your JD is your Juris Doctorate, which
Okay,
is the
got it.
degree that you graduate from law school with.
Got it.
To go to law school, you need a bachelor's degree. And that bachelor's degree can be anything. So unlike med school, which has certain prerequisites, organic chemistry, all these different things, law school, you can have any bachelor's degree. And I didn't know that when I went, which sounds weird to say. But I remember going to my high school counselor and saying, I want to go to law school. What should I major in college? And she looked it up and she said, well, political science is the most widely accepted bachelor's degree in law school programs. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll be a poli-sci major, and like didn't even think twice of it. Fast forward, I'm sitting in my 1L class, my first year of law school, and I met a classmate of mine who was a dance major from Alabama. And I was like, I did this all wrong. So I think that's what's cool about law school is that you can go with any bachelor's degree and you get there. Traditional JD program is 3 years. You can finish it in less if you take summer school and things like that. And then after that, you get out and you can either go take the bar exam and be a practicing attorney, or you don't have to. And you can go get a different wide variety of jobs, or go into business, go into real estate, go into these different things where having a law background is one, super helpful, but two, I think perhaps most importantly, the network of folks that you go to school with. So all my classmates, I've been out of law school now 14 years. Crazy.
Yeah,
I've been
that's
out of
time
law.
flies.
I've been out of law school now 14 years. All of my classmates that I went to school with are either now partners at their own firm, or they own their own law firm, or they've gone business, real estate, entrepreneurial, and they're all like killing it. So it's an incredible network to have in your phone.
Now, question for you. If you are, let's say, 18 and you're like, I just want to become an entrepreneur, real estate investor, would you still recommend that individual go to a 4-year bachelor's and then go on to law school if they're like, I just want to be a business owner?
I think if they already know they want to be a business owner, the best way to become a business owner is to get your hands dirty, right? And gain that experience of being in whatever business, because you need the 10,000 hours, right? So why not get started? I think with law school, though, again, just having that background of like contracts, negotiation, like these are skills and skill sets that you will use every single day in business. There's something very valuable of knowing how to structure deals and structure contracts, especially if you are the business owner, because then frankly, you save yourself the time and money. In my various startups over the last 14 years, guess what? I've done 90% of our startup paperwork, right? Saved us tens of thousands of dollars off the bat, just simply in operating agreements and partnership agreements and structuring, as opposed to paying someone to do it at, $4.50 an hour.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff's not cheap. I mean, when we set up our fund, we paid upwards of like close to $70,000 just to set up the fund. So a lot of those counsels, you bring them on, it's not going to be cheap.
Absolutely. And at least if you can get the drafting done, which is what I'll do, right? I'll get it 90% of the way there. And now we're just paying for their time, for an extra set of eyes to get their blessing on it. And then we're off to the races.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to touch on the mailbox stuff because I know that's like a really cool, unique thing. And it's a niche that I don't know. I personally don't know anyone else doing it other than the local shop that we have here in the Little Italy neighborhood where our office and podcast studio is located. And they're super cool. And I know that shop just sold, but they have these mini mailboxes and you can go in there. I do like some notarizations there. Also, just whenever we need to ship stuff overnight, we typically just go there because it's like 2 blocks from the office. But you're doing $1 million a year in gross revenue through these mini mailboxes. Talk a little bit about that and how are you doing it?
I love this business model. So having had other startups like, cupcakes and obviously real estate, which I still have, what I loved about this business model was that I knew, especially after starting at cupcakes and having that for 11 years, I was like, whatever I add now into the business portfolio, I don't want a perishable product anymore.
Sure.
I don't want a business that's heavy staff intensive or requires specialized staff. And especially, this being in real estate, I didn't want another business in the portfolio where I would just always be available, right? Where clients and customers have your cell phone number, and this, like time kills deals, especially in real estate. So like you're always on, right? And I was like, I don't want that as another business. And so I initially had started looking into buying UPS franchise store. And I was looking at doing one in Vegas. This was 6 years ago. I was going to buy a UPS franchise store. And for the territory alone, it was around $250,000. It's Vegas. It's a popular urban area.
That's just to buy the territory?
Just for the license to be able to do a UPS store in that area of town.
Got it.
$250,000.
And that doesn't include the cost to
build out the store, nothing, right? So you're like, okay, well, this is the entry fee, right? And I'd called a buddy of mine, Greg, who owns 3 UPS franchise stores. And I was like, tell me about this business model. And he was like, okay. He's like, the mailboxes that you rent out, which are essentially mini storage units, he's like, you rent those out and those are your monthly recurring revenue. The shipping is ancillary and seasonal. He's like, you make a percentage, you make a markup on the shipping. And I was like, okay. And so he was like, so if I were you, he's like, you maybe think about going independent. He's like, right now you call any one of my UPS stores and say, hi, I'm a new mailbox customer. I want to open a mailbox. He's like, I don't even have one to give you because I'm maxed out. He had whatever it was, 300 to 310 mailboxes. And I was like, can you just add more? And he was like, nope, because my store layout is dictated by the franchise. It's been designed by them. It's approved by them. There's no room for me to just slam in more boxes. And I was like, that's interesting. So he was like, I love mailbox customers personally. He was like, because steady recurring revenue and they're a sticky customer. If they have a mailbox with me, they're coming to me for everything else, for all their shipping needs, for their notary, for their packaging, whatever. He was like, they're very sticky. So I was like, interesting. So then I realized up the street from my house in Summerlin at the time was an independent store that I had always just kind of equated as like a UPS store, but I
Hmm.
realized it's an independent store because it was called Postal Pros.
Mm.
And I was like, wait a second, like I'm already patron here, right? I was dropping off my eBay and my Amazon and stuff. And so I went in, I knew the owner, his name was Andrew. And I said, Andrew, I, do you want to expand? Are you like interested in expanding this, location? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, well, I think I want to open up one of these stores, but I'll be down far enough away. 215 Flamingo won't be in your area. I don't know anything about running a shipping retail business. I was like, I'll pay you $10,000 if you let me follow you around for 2 weeks. And I'll capture all your processes and create like a nice handbook for you. And, is this something we could do? And he was just like, you are so crazy. He's like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, let's do it. And so I did. So essentially I paid him a consulting fee, right? But I viewed that 10 grand
An investment.
as an investment because I was like, you know what? I'm going to get in here and I'm going to work in this store for 2 weeks. And if this business model is what I think it is, I'm moving forward and I'm going to open up my own store, right? If it's not what I think it is, then I've just saved myself
Right.
$240,000, right?
Yeah.
By not doing a franchise store. And yeah, I mean, I was in there and I was just like, this is awesome. What a great business. And we mimicked his business hours. He's open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
That's funny.
That's great,
You don't need to
right?
reinvent the wheel.
There is nothing that there's no reason for any customer to contact you after store hours, right? Once the doors are locked, like no one is calling your cell phone. It's such a low drama, low maintenance type of business, which also is something I really craved having had built these other businesses.
Why is there such a big demand for these mini mailboxes? Because I've had one in the past, and it was because I was just getting going as an entrepreneur, and I didn't have an office yet, and so I wanted my mail to be like delivered to a specific place. But is that the sole reason why people get these?
It's a variety of reasons. One of those included I had a mailbox at a local UPS store in Vegas for like 7 years before starting my own stores. And I had it because I wanted a secure mailing address. I was, especially at that time, I was traveling a lot. And so I was like, I'm hardly home. I don't want packages left on my doorstep with porch pirates and whatever else, right? So we do get a lot of our mailbox customers are small business owners. Maybe they have some sort of side hustle where they're selling e-commerce online or something like that out of their home. But then we have some larger businesses too. Like one of our mailbox customers at one of the stores is a property management company. And so another guy's credit repair. Like these are kind of small business owners. But then we also have like families. At one of our locations by Nellis Air Force Base, that area, there's a lot of apartment complexes actually right around that store. And unfortunately, their mailbox clusters get broken into pretty frequently. And so we have quite a few customers up there who are either retired veterans or they're older folks who are on fixed income, like Social Security, for example. And that's how they get their checks is mail. And so they need secure mail, a place to receive.
Yeah, it's kind of an evergreen product because it's like it's never going to be replaced by technology.
Never, right? The mail will always run it. And we discovered, we discovered that it's totally pandemic proof. We were open the entire duration of the 2020 pandemic. We never were closed a single like business day that we're usually open because the mail never stopped running, right? We realized that the mail never stopped running. This is, kind of early mid-March when people were trying to figure out what was going on. The governor at our time closed the Las Vegas Strip, right? The Strip didn't close 9/11. They didn't close 1 October on that shooting. Like the Strip doesn't close,
No.
right? He closed it for 90 days and literally like the mail didn't stop running. So what we did was at first, because no one knew what was going on, we shortened our hours. But then we realized, hey, we have to at least be open for the window that we know the carriers are coming to drop off mail. We need to be open for them to drop it off. And then we're like, well, we need to be open for our customers to pick up their mail. And then literally less than 2 weeks of shortened hours, we went back to normal hours by April of 2020. And we were open the entire pandemic and had a better 2020 than 2019 in revenue because of shipping increased, triple, and then more people were opening mailboxes.
What does it typically cost to start your own store? And then how much does it cost to build out your own store?
So I opened up 2 stores with less than $60,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you borrow money?
No, I
Yeah.
had that in savings.
Okay.
And it was, it's one of those things where like, especially when you have like a chunk of money, right? And you're like, oh, am I going to buy more real estate? Am I going to go buy something fun? What are we doing here? And I was pleasantly surprised at how low the startup cost was, because I just had it kind of mentally in my head. Hey, if I can open these stores for less than 100 grand, again, I was thinking of the UPS franchise where I'm like, I'm going to save myself 150 grand, right? And it literally was less than $60,000. And looking back, there are definitely some line items I didn't have to do, right? Like in our first location, I changed out the flooring to do this like really nice like garage floor epoxy situation. I didn't have to do that. That was, $2,000 or whatever it was. Like I didn't have to do that, right? So there were kind of little line item things that if I eliminated those and tried to do it really bare bones, probably could have saved myself another 10 grand.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. And then also the franchise fee, because UPS probably charges you, or FedEx, they probably charge you what, 6% of everything
Yeah.
you make?
So, yep. So UPS, not only do they charge a franchise fee, but they also charge a required marketing fee. And this is based on your monthly gross. This is your monthly gross. It comes right off the top, right? So forget your rent, forget your staff payroll, for,
Yeah.
all of the expenses that you have with running a business. You also are subject to all of that. And so I love this business model because, again, it's kind of low lift, low barrier to entry, because you don't need a lot to get the store up and running, right? What do you need inside? You need mailboxes. You need mailbox holders. You need cash register, counters, POS system, computer, scale, boxes, right? Like there's not a lot in there. Unlike, for example, starting up a restaurant, right? Where
Oh,
you're
it's a whole thing.
at least 300 grand in tenant improvements, right? With
Yeah.
the equipment, everything else. Plus you're dealing with the health department, whatever regulatory agency is. That was the other thing with the bakery. I was like, I don't ever want to deal with the health department again, right? Like,
Restaurants probably one of the most competitive spaces to get into. Like good restaurants do like single digit returns, and a lot of them fail
yes,
within the
yeah,
first year or two.
yeah. Your
Yeah.
margins are so slim. I mean, at our bakery, we were lucky if we were at like 35% margin, right? We were like high-fiving each other, right? That was like a good, cost of goods situation. At the mailbox stores, our margins are 50%.
What does an average mailbox sell for?
So we price ours at $20 a month for the smalls, $30 a month for medium, $35 a month for the larges. What I recommend to folks is to just kind of like mystery shop your area, right? Because it's really dependent on your area. And in fact, the store will service essentially a hyper-local community. Just how you were saying the store you go to is 2 blocks away because it's convenient for you. That's why you go there, right? So I would look at kind of mystery shop the area, and we priced ourselves that way because it would put us a couple bucks below the closest UPS store, which there's one actually pretty close to my first store. And we priced ourselves like, I think they were like $23, $24 for the smalls. We put ourselves at 20,
And
right?
how many months does the average customer rent these boxes for?
Yeah. So we do a 3-month minimum.
Okay.
And then after that, you can go month to month if you'd like. But if you sign up for 6 months and prepay 6 months, we'll give you a month free. If you sign up for 12 months, we'll give you 2 months free. But we tack it on the back end.
Because with mine, I'm pretty sure that I like ended up getting an office and forgetting that I still had it. And
Yeah.
it probably went on for like another like 9 months before I was
Yes.
like, oh, I got to cancel this. So how long would you say the average client rents from you guys?
Years.
Years,
Years
really?
and years and years. Yeah. Well, we literally at our stores, we have customers that signed up in the first week or two that we were open, and they are still there. Because again, it's such a sticky thing. As long as you're providing them good service, right?
What do you do when like they don't check their mail for like a long time? It just piles up. What do you do at that point?
So if it piles up, then of course we'll still continue to receive, but we'll hold it in the back, and we're like blowing up your phone. We're like, your mailbox is full, right?
Yeah.
Like you have a ton of mail.
Yeah.
And you do have some folks who, for example, especially in Vegas, it's hot in the summertime. You have folks that'll leave town for like 2 months, right? In the summer or something like that, and they go somewhere else, or they have a second home somewhere else. And they'll give us a heads up. So we know we're actually going to just hold their mail in the back instead of trying to jam it in the box.
I'm one of those people, by the
Oh,
way.
you
I'm
are?
like, yeah, almost everything I do is digital now. I don't get a lot of like mail that it's like important, right? So it's like statements and like, but like I get electronic statements too. And if I ever need to like refer to anything, everything's online these days. There is a one-off chance that I might get some sort of like, cashier's check or like something in the mail where car registration, right? Got to put the stickers on the car.
Mm-hmm.
So those are like a couple like one-off examples where I'm like, oh, I got to check the mail. But other than that, because I don't expect anything of importance, I might go 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks without checking. And then it's often like starts to pile up a little bit. So I'm one of those people.
Well, we do have clients
And most of it's
that'll
just
tell
junk.
us sometimes they'll tell us, "Hey, feel free to throw out, like,
Good job.
flyers." Yeah, exactly. Feel free to throw out flyers. Feel free to throw out anything that says pre-sorted, in the postage area so they know it's, like, spam or whatever. So we'll do that for them, but otherwise, it's kind of few and far between as far as the folks that just don't ever come get their mail regularly.
Yeah. If you love real estate investing, passive income, and tax benefits, but don't have the time, my company, Summers Capital, is buying boutique hotels right now. We source the deals, we renovate the properties, and we even handle all the day-to-day management, making it truly hands-off for our investors. If you want to learn more to see if we can help you, visit summerscapital.com/invest to book a call with our team. Again, that's summerscapital.com/invest. Now back to the show. Have you ever thought of the play? Because I've always thought it'd be cool to buy a retail strip, maybe with 4 units, and then maybe operate one of them with the mailboxes, or operate one of them as a laundromat, and then rent the other 3 units out to other tenants. But then you own the real estate long term, you get the depreciation, and you get multiple streams of wealth building through that model. Have you ever thought about that?
Absolutely. I love that, and if I could buy the locations I'm in now, that would be ideal, of course, I did put in an offer on a pad that's right in front of my Fort Apache
Did ya?
location. Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually where our dumpster is right now,
Nice.
but it's on the street, and so, I did put an offer in on that. Hasn't gone anywhere yet, but, we're still, kind of poking and prodding them, but that's the goal, right? It's ideal. If you can own the real estate, you have a retail area there that has just good, solid, recurring revenue businesses,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
So since we last met, you rolled out your own online community helping folks buy the mailboxes and that sort of thing. And you were telling me before we started recording, you got 40 something members that have successfully bought mailboxes, stores throughout the country. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's been incredible. It really came about just because I was getting so many inbounds from people asking, "Hey, how do I start my own independent store?" And at first I was answering these one-off messages, and it got pretty inundating. And a friend of mine, Cody Sanchez, actually was like, she's like, "Dude," she's like, "you have to start a course in a community around this, put the information out there in one platform." And I'd fought it because I was like, "No, no, no. I'm a real estate investor. I'm a real business person, and I had this kind of preconceived assumption about it." And she was just like, "Dude," she was like, "You need to do this, and I went to a goal setting retreat with Ken McElroy, my real estate mentor. And one of the exercises at this goal setting retreat was get out a piece of paper and write down all your back burner projects. We
Mhm.
all have them, right?
Yeah.
And so get out a piece of paper, write down all your back burner projects, and then pick one to actually execute. And on my list was the mailbox course and community. So I took all my SOPs that we literally use in our stores every day, took all the SOPs, threw them all into a platform, and then just put it out there for the world. And it's so inspiring. My students that are in there, they're literally going out there now and creating their own stores, either starting them from scratch or buying them. And so it was so awesome. Like I was saying this
Yeah.
morning
This morning
here,
you were out
yeah,
here.
going to visit my students, Ethan and Thor. They acquired a store in North San Diego, and they acquired it just 7 months ago, 7, 8 months ago, and rebranded it, retained staff, added some new staff, have made some cosmetic changes. They're making some technology changes and a few things like that, but otherwise they're off to the races and they're loving it.
That's so cool.
It's so cool.
Regarding the staff, how many staff members do you think you need on an average size store?
Again, one of the things I love about this business model, you can run it super lean. You can run it as little as one person in the store. So you have folks out there who are just owner operators, or you could just have one person on staff at a time. And so the way we split up our shifts, you could do a 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. shift, and then a 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. shift, or maybe do a noon to 6, have a little bit of overlap in there for mail sorting or something. But otherwise, you literally could run it as lean as one person. And again, that's what I love about the independent stores, is that that's your call as the business owner, right? There are some franchises out there that will dictate the amount of staff you have to have on the floor. If it's a retail location or if it's holiday season or whatever it is, they'll tell you the amount of minimum staff you have to have on the floor. Independent store, you could have one person.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the hotel stuff. So when we do the boutique hotels, If you go franchise flagged with like, these, even if it's like a lower end flag, like a Ramada Inn or some of these motels, you still have to abide to certain renovation packages. You have to pay a franchise fee of all the income that comes in,
Mhm.
marketing fees and all that sort of
Mhm.
thing. But going boutique, you can have a lot more flexibility, which is pretty cool. But love the mailbox model. I think it's super unique. Where can the folks go if someone's listening to this and they're like, hey, I want to learn more to see if it might be a fit to join your community? Where can they go?
They could just go to mailboxmoneycourse.com.
Okay, nice and easy. I like
Yeah.
that.
Thank
Did
you.
you have to buy that URL?
Yeah.
We bought what is it? Hotelinvesting.com. And I
Oh,
was
good
like,
one. How is that even
it was
available?
available and it was only like they were trying to sell it for like 4,500 and we ended up getting it for 2,600.
Get out of
Yeah.
here. That's a good URL.
Yeah, tip for anyone listening to this, like if there's any domains out there that are for sale by a broker, negotiate it because
Oh,
every
it's
domain that we've ever bought,
negotiable.
we had to buy Summers Capital and then hotelinvesting.com. And both of those, we ended up getting it for about almost half off.
That's
So
great.
always negotiate those domains.
That's great.
Yeah. But I've heard of people like spending up, like Alex Ramosi says he spent a good chunk. I want to say like $400,000 or $500,000 for acquisition.com.
Wow. Oh, that's right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
did see that video.
But
Yeah.
I think some of these bigger domains, I mean, from a marketing standpoint, just makes a ton of sense. But I was like, yeah, hotelinvesting.com. I don't know how that was
Like,
just
how
sitting
is
out
that
there.
even available? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
absolutely. So I love that you said that you offered this guy $10,000 for consulting. I'm a big fan of it. I know you hired a coach when you were running for Miss Nevada. And for the folks that aren't aware, Lisa was a former Miss Nevada, rocking her thing. So talk a little bit about why you decided to hire a coach for the Miss Nevada pageant.
Well, it's one of those things where I'm just a firm believer that if you want to do something right, you have to learn from folks that are, have the experience to help guide you. And when I decided to compete, it was because my mom called me the fall of 2013, and "Are you competing for Miss Las Vegas?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm kind of busy. Just started a company. Like, we're off to the races here." And she was like, "Well, you're getting ready to age out." And I was like, so at the time, during that time frame, the Miss America system, you aged out at 24. USA, you aged out at 26. United States, you aged out at 29.
How come the different ages? Why not
Uh,
just like one for
yeah,
everyone?
it's just they're at that time. So now they've all bumped it up. But at that time in 2013, those were the age cutoffs for the Miss division, MISS for the Miss division.
What's the other division?
There's
Mister?
Mrs. No,
Oh,
there's
Mrs. That
Mrs.
means you're
MRS
married?
married. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so they have different systems. So think of pageantry like sports, where you have all these different systems and leagues and organizations. Same thing in pageantry. It's a whole other world. But the kind of like main, the big systems that people have heard of are America, USA, United States. And USA and United States have international components, again, at that time when I was competing back in 2013. So I had already, by the time my mom called me and was like, "You're getting ready to age out," I realized I had already aged out of America. I'd aged out of USA. United States was my like last chance for a title with a big organization. And so I was like, I have to buckle down, right? I have to buckle down. I need to hire a coach and like get serious about this. And so I hired a coach named Bill Alverson. This guy coaches winners. His past clients were back-to-back Miss Americas. Like this guy, he's an attorney out of Alabama, actually, and he specializes in communication. He's like communications coach. Because what you don't realize is that 50%, at least in the United States system, when I competed, 50% of your score is actually talking. You have interview, swimsuit, evening gown, and onstage question. They're all weighted evenly, 25% each. So 50% of your score is actually talking.
Mm-hmm.
And contacted him. At first, he rejected me.
Really? Why? How come?
He was just like, honey," he was like, you're so small." He's like, "I just don't see how we're going to win," especially back in that time in 2013 in pageantry, because you're on stage, right? So it helps to be tall. It helps to be 5'10" plus.
Really? That tall?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
I think just, especially like if you look at criteria for like swimsuit and evening gown, you're looking for like, first off, like overall impression, overall presence. And in general, like taller girls sometimes, usually they're proportionate, striking, right? When they come out, it's like a striking look or a striking presence. And especially if you're on a big stage, right? If you're in a big pageant, you're on a big stage. If you are a small, petite person, you just look small. Right? You're just small on stage because you are small, right?
Yeah. See, I never understood that because, like, for me personally as a guy, like, this is just like personal preference. I think a woman looks like the most like balanced when they're like, between 5'4" and maybe like 5'6", 5'7", right? And I always feel like a woman that's like 6 foot or 5'11", they're a little bit like too tall. That's just me personal preference. And the same thing with like when girls have preferences with guys. I feel like there's a balance with guys too in terms of like size. And so I guess I just never understood. I do know like a lot of European models are like really tall, but I just never understood it from like a guy's perspective. Yeah.
Well, so again, at that time, I think pageantry, it's changed a little bit since then. But, in 2013, that was still the kind of modus operandi of, in general, that's what it's going to take to win. And so when I competed, I was literally the shortest contestant at the
How
pageant
tall are
that
you? If you
year,
don't want me
like
yeah.
5'2", and
Okay.
I'm always
Okay.
wearing heels anyway.
Yeah.
And when I
But
competed, though,
proportionate.
very it's genetics, right? Like if you are, luckily, if your body is proportionate, that helps a lot with print work, with like photography, and then also, being on a stage. But, just like little tactics, right? Like my gown that I wore to win had no slit in it. So it went all the way to the floor. And so I had huge, like, Vegas stripper shoes on
Oh my God.
underneath. They're like 7-inch heel. They were massive with like the big platform, like the chunky generic stripper shoes you think of when you say stripper shoes. That's what I had on under my gown. No one saw them, right? Obviously. But this gown went all the way to the floor, and that was on purpose because I wanted to look as tall and like kind of statuesque as possible on stage. So just kind of little tweaks like that. But really what we focused on actually was interview, because that's the first time that the judges meet you, is in private interview. This is before the show, the pageant, right? Private interview. And when I competed, it was a round robin style, 5 minutes with each judge. And there's 5 judges. And that's your time to shine. That's your chance to talk about the community work that you're doing, your public service platform, why you would be the best representative for the
Be
organization.
charismatic, be likable, be trustable, all those things that matter.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. And so you just crushed that aspect of it.
So that was our game plan going in, right? That's what any good coach, right, or mentor is going to work with you to strategize. And so he was like, you're small, this and that, and he was like, okay, he's like, let's strategize. He's like, if we can have it so that you are getting 10 out of 10 in interview, he's like, and we have to hope that these other girls are like vapid. He's like, then that night, it's human nature. That night when you come out in swimsuit, which is the next time that the judges see you during the show, right?
So you can't wear the 6-inch stiletto heels with the swimsuit though, right?
No.
So how do you mask that?
I did have on big platform heels. So not like
With the
stripper shoe
swim
heels, but they were like, it was a nude color, strappy. It did have a platform on the front with a big heel on it. Yeah. So the next time they see you is swimsuit. And, if you look at the scoring rubric for that, this is not just like how good does she look in the swimsuit, right? Because at that level, especially state level, for the most part, right, everyone's going to be fit. Everyone's tanned and toned, and right. And so you're more looking for like, how is she expressing herself on stage? Does she look like she's having fun? Is she, just kind of overall like impression? Does she have a weird walk, right? Or like, does she look uncomfortable up there? Does she look timid, or does she look like uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or is she confident? Is she coming out there having a good time? And he was like, that's the key. If you can win them over, get a 10 out of 10 in interview, the next time they see you, you're going to come out on stage and they're going to be like, I liked her. Like, I really like her. And you just kind of keep that momentum going.
What's the key when you're walking down the runway to kind of like appear to have that confident look?
Yeah. So I worked with a walking coach.
Because everyone's staring at you, right? You're probably all these cameras, and like you got to be a little bit nervous. So
you definitely are. You definitely are.
And you got one shot at this.
And you have girls doing like push-ups and sit-ups backstage to like be like extra tone or whatever. I'm like, if you're not toned right now, like it's not working. You know what I mean? But
people are doing squats in the back.
Yeah, exactly. I worked with a walking coach. She's actually a really incredible photographer.
Really? There's walking coaches?
There's a walking coach.
Never guessed.
Her name's Georgina. She's actually a former Miss Nevada USA. So with the walk, there's a whole sequence that goes down with it. There's a way to turn. I don't know if you can think back to pageants you've seen on TV, right? Some girls will do a turn in there. It's not just like a 3-step turn that you would think to do. There's a whole like dragging the foot and like you're shifting your weight, and it's almost a choreographed session where it's like you have a routine. You have a choreographed routine for when you come out
Got
in
it. And so
swimsuit.
you practice this walk enough times to where it just feels normal at that point. You're not thinking
Exactly
about it.
right. Yeah,
Wow.
exactly
How
right.
many reps do you think you got in before you actually did it?
I was practicing it everywhere that I possibly could, right? So, like, we'd be in the office. I'd be anywhere. Like, I would just, like,
Out to
practice it
dinner?
real quick,
Yeah.
right? And I think by the time you get there, like, you're just like, "Okay, I've done all this work to be prepared, like, I gotta leave it all on stage," right? Like,
Yeah.
I have to show that I'm having a good time, that I'm excited to be here. But again, another tactic that we utilized, he was like, "We need to pack the audience because it's a live audience, right?" And I literally had, like, 60, like, family and friends in this auditorium, and there was a bar there, they were serving alcohol, so I was like, "This is gonna get out of hand quickly."
Can imagine.
They had, like, posters, right? My mom had, like, an 8 by 10 headshot of me on, like, paint sticks that she got from Lowe's, right? So everyone's, like, waving their headshot of me. Every time I hit the stage, there was an eruption from, like, the right side of the audience, right? Just eruption, and so the judges, of course, again, it's human nature where they're just like, wow, they turned around because they were like, there's so much
For
commotion
sure.
going on, you know?
Mhm.
And it's human nature, right? They're like, this girl has so much support. I by far had the most support there, like, because my
Where
crew
was
was
the venue?
loud. It was at the South Point Casino in their showroom.
Okay, so
Yeah,
drinks are flowing, we got gambling going on outside. Are people taking bets on who's gonna win?
probably. Yeah, absolutely, right? It's Vegas. You can get odds for anything. So yeah, so every time I came out on stage, as soon as I hit the stage, eruption from my crew. And again, that was all just like tactics of how we prepare to set myself up for success.
Now, getting to that stage, was there, like, a lot of other rounds of competitions leading up to that one, and you had to win all those just to get to this main one?
So again, yep. So pageantry, just like sports, right? So you'll have local, then you have state, then you have national, and then depending on the system, you have an
And you had to
international
coach for all
component.
levels.
Hmm.
Got it. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Wow, that's impressive.
it's a whole
And s
thing. Yeah, it's a
and
whole
so the highest
industry.
level was the state, or you compete for, like, Miss USA?
And then you go to nationals.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay, so after
Yeah.
this, you
So
after
went to
Miss
Miss
Nevada,
United
went to
States.
went to
Yep.
the Miss USA.
Yeah. So it was
That's pretty impressive.
July of 2014.
And how did you rank in that one?
So I made top 15.
Wow.
Yeah,
Out of
that was
50,
really
that's good.
exciting.
That's really
Yeah,
good.
super exciting. Again, I was myself and Kentucky that year were the two shortest contestants. We were like exact same kind of like we were like twin images of each other when it came to like our body type. And so it was funny because for opening number, for example, for nationals, the organization gives all the girls the same opening number outfit for that year. It was this like blue dress
When you say
situation
opening number, what do you mean?
to kick off the show. So like the curtains go up and you have all the contestants out there to do this like dance for the opening number to like kick off the pageant.
Got it. Everyone at once.
Yes.
Okay.
And so my mom actually like hand sewed and fixed and like tightened in, brought in our dresses that they gave us for myself and Miss Kentucky that year. Her name was Katie Moody Cusick was her name because we were like same body type and we were
Mhm.
both like the shortest girls there. And so my mom was in there like furiously like sewing our clothes.
Oh my gosh,
You
that
know,
is too funny.
it was
I
awesome.
love that. Well, yeah, I've never watched like a lot of these pageants, but I always thought it was interesting. It's like the same concept that you're talking about, hiring a coach, hiring a consultant, someone that's done this before at a high level, and then can come and like, handle those principles. I treat business this way, I treat fitness this way. And every high performer I know, regardless of the niche, even professional athletes, they all have performance coaches at every single level. And I think it's like one of the biggest hacks that like not a lot of people talk about, or they might like poo-poo it, but I'm like, no, like this is the freaking path, and it's going to cut down on mistakes. It's going to shortcut your path from point A to point B, because you're either going to pay with time or you're going to pay with money by making mistakes. And a lot of these business
Absolutely.
transactions, the mistakes get bigger and bigger and more costly as you grow.
Definitely. And I think it's a mindset shift too, right? So if the folks that are out there that are like, oh, I would never pay for a consultant or a coach, like or a mentor, like that's too expensive, they're going to stay stuck wherever they are because they're not
Yeah.
willing to learn from someone else. And I have no problem. I don't think anyone does, right? No problem paying for value, right?
Mm.
It's not that you're throwing your money
There's got to
away.
be a value exchange.
There has to be a value
Yes.
exchange. And anyone who is a high level coach, mentor, performer, they're going to over deliver on the value that they're giving you that you're paying for because they want to make sure that you succeed.
100%.
Why would they want you out there not succeeding when they know that you're their client?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have a business coach that I meet with. His name's Rick English. We meet every single Monday for an hour virtually, and he'll fly in for our quarterly meetings. But just for me to have someone to talk to once a week for
It's
an hour
huge. Yeah.
about all the different things that are going on within the business, the bottlenecks, the constraints, the challenges that I'm dealing with, and having someone to walk through those things with, and then also walk through my ideas with, is huge because as we grow, I feel like our circles get smaller and smaller and smaller. And it does get lonelier as you grow because the amount of people that can relate becomes smaller and smaller. And so I think to have that person on your side, the coach, there's mindset coaches out there as well. There's coaches at every little niche is a huge difference maker. And it could be the difference between you getting to the amateur level or semi-pro and then making it to the NBA. It's a big difference maker there. So I want to switch gears here and talk a little bit about right now. You decided not to get married in your 20s or your 30s. And a lot of people, I think, traditionally have gotten married in the younger ages. I know my parents and that generation, it was very common for people to get married in their young 20s, but we're not seeing this as much. And you're a full-time entrepreneur now. You said when we started the show, you had a boyfriend. Do you have plans to get married?
Yes,
You do.
definitely.
You do want to get
Yeah.
married. You value it.
Yeah. I've
Okay.
I've always said, even in my 20s, that marriage and kids and family are important to me, and it's something that I want. Um, and I've looked back at like my actions though, right? In my 20s and my early 30s of this build phase that I've been in, I didn't prioritize strong relationships that would lead to these things I say that I want,
Hmm.
right? And so now, in my mid to late 30s, I've definitely shifted my mindset in relation to realizing, hey, I've got to make sure that my actions are aligning with what I'm saying that I want. And that has come with really changing my filter around men that I've let into my life and relationships that I invest in. Because I think, especially in my 20s, I was just kind of like, I was traveling everywhere. I was like building all these things. And so it was just kind of like whatever was convenient or like, oh, like he's nice and fun, and not putting a lot of effort or stock into like, is this something that's sustainable? Is this something that, can grow? Is this a person that I'd want to be married to? Is this a person that I'd want to have children with or like be a role model to my future kids? I didn't even think to ask myself those questions in my 20s and early 30s. And so now I definitely am,
And I think
filtering
that's like a
hard for that.
natural progression, at least for me. Like, I feel like in my teenage years and 20s and even early 30s, I always felt like, oh, we got plenty of time, and so I never like looked at anything as an urgent thing. And then I would say now, like in my mid to late 30s, I think a lot, and I'm approaching my 40s, I'm 38 right now. I start to think about, how much time we have left. And I always say months is the best way to measure how much time we have left. If average life expectancy as a guy is 77, I'm 38. Well, I have about 460 months left, and that's going to fly by like that. And so when I think of it from that perspective, it forces me to be more intentional and spend time with those that are intentional about how they spend time.
Right, absolutely. And it's funny because do feel like I've had such a good mindset around business of staying focused, knowing that, my actions need to match up with my words and vice versa. Like I've been so good about that on the business side, and I came to this kind of crossroads where I was like, Lisa, like, why is that not matching up for you in your personal life? Like, what are you not doing, right? That as a result, it's not matching up. And I was just like, I need to be taking these same principles and like bringing them across the board, and taking a hard look in the mirror and just being like, Lisa, if you say that these things are important to you, if you say family's important and you do want to get married and have kids one day, then like, how are your actions aligning with that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is a little bit off topic, but so one of the things that I've thought recently that I thought would be really cool, because I want to have kids. I'm not ready right now, but in like 4 or 5 years, I'd love to have kids. Is I would be so open to hire like 3 surrogates. I want to have like 3 kids and hire 3 surrogates at the same time and have 3 kids all within the same month. They're gonna grow up together. They'll go to school together. They'll be like best friends. And then because we have the surrogates, like my wife never has to go through like all this like labor process and she can like travel with me and go continue to do like badass things. But then still get to have like a family of 3. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think, surrogates are a great option for some folks. I do think there's also something very special about a mother carrying her baby like in the womb,
Yes, I agree with that.
I do think there's something special about that. But then again, I mean, there's so many different options. I think ways you can go with it too. And I think that flexibility is key, and that's what's amazing about modern science right now, is that like we do have options that people didn't have decades ago.
And I also thought, like, from a branding perspective, like, think if, like, you had 3 kids with 3 different surrogates, all born in the same week, same, like, month, all best friends. They could have their own YouTube channel.
Oh my God,
And from a branding perspective,
stop it,
they would
Rich.
have, like, their own, like, freaking brands, and then by the time they turn 18, it's like they're gonna be, like, set. I mean,
I
I'm just
mean,
saying,
maybe so,
it would be a hell
yeah.
of a story,
I
right?
mean,
Would it not?
it sounds like an experiment. Sounds like a bit of an experiment.
And then, like, I don't know, I just think, like, the kids would be out of the house at the same age, they all turn 18 at the same time. I don't know. It's just an idea. I know it's a little bit crazy, but sometimes, like, crazy ideas are, like, kinda cool. I don't know.
I think what's like just kind of what's cool to see, especially now with like modern times, modern technology, is that like we do have all the flexibility. And I think especially women, who are in our mid to late 30s, like, a couple decades ago, like it wasn't going to be an option for us to start a family naturally, right? And I love that, we're still going to have an opportunity, especially as science continues to advance and things like that. We can build our businesses and build our careers if we want to, and still get an opportunity to enjoy family and family life in another chapter too.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. But, for the ladies out there that are like, maybe they're like, "Man, I'm getting a little bit too old to have kids," that surrogate could be a good option for them, right?
Absolutely. And I think too, because sometimes there is a lot of just like emotional stress and pressure around inability to conceive for women in their, mid to late 30s, early
Yeah, my
40s.
mom was, like, 42 when she had me, and she had a C-section.
Right. So, I mean, a perfect example. I met a colleague at a speaking engagement that I did down in Costa Rica for this really great group called Go Abundance Women. And she's 42 and was like 8 months pregnant. And it was a surprise pregnancy with her and her husband. And she was saying that, like, prior to that, she had been told that it was going to be like nearly impossible for her to get pregnant. And she had been trying for so many years. And once she made that mental click of just like kind of like sitting in it and accepting it, of being like, you know what? If I want more kids in my future, I'm going to end up adopting, and like that's okay. And as soon as she mentally clicked that, boom, she got pregnant
Mm.
naturally.
So you think a
Right.
lot of it
So
is mental,
I
mindset.
wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot of it, mindset, mental, that stress that you put on yourself around like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I conceive, or whatever it is? And it's like, there's a lot of stories out there of women who, the moment that they'd like let that go, where they're just like, you know what? Like, it's a mental shift. All of a sudden they get pregnant naturally.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in like everything starts with the mind. A lot of the things that we do start with the mind. But I was listening to a podcast. This is a while back. I forget whose podcast it was, but there was like a scientist or like a doctor on the pod, and he was talking about how he was doing these different case studies, and he would have these different control groups, and he would, like, for example, give one of them like a milkshake, and he would tell one group, "Hey, this is a milkshake with 3,000 calories. That's really bad for you." And then he would tell the other group, same exact milkshake, "Hey, this is like a lot of health benefits that come out of this, a lot of vitamins. You're going to feel great." And he said the control group that thought they were getting an unhealthy shake, where like took like 24 hours to digest it, their bodies, like their body temperatures went up, their heart rate went up, and their bodies like didn't handle or like metabolize it very well. And then the other control group that thought it was like healthy with a lot of health benefits, they like metabolized this thing really well. They're like, everything was great. And so he said the only difference was like their mind. And so I'm a
That
big
is
believer in that.
wild. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy. I want to touch on real quick is on your VC fund, because I think it's super cool what you guys are doing, the Veteran Fund. Talk a little bit about that and how you guys are helping the community.
Sure. So the Veteran Fund is a venture capital fund. We invest in early stage technology companies focused on national security and dual use. And they must have a veteran or a military spouse on the leadership team. Myself and my 3 other general partners, the 3 of them are veterans. I'm the only GP that's not a veteran, but I come from a military family myself. My dad was Vietnam Air Force, U.S. Air Force, and then worked for the Department of Defense while I was growing up. So military family is near and dear to my heart for sure. I love it. We've been at it about 2 years now, and the investments that we're making into these companies are just not only just incredible technology. Like I'd mentioned earlier today, we were over at Firestorm, just up the road from here. They're 3D printing drones at a tenth of the cost of what the military is currently paying. And it's important, right? Because what's happening is that you have technology that's being created by veterans and by folks who were out there boots on the ground. And now they're getting a chance to create the technology that they wish they would have had when they were in the fight previously. And these veterans in particular are the type of entrepreneurs purely from an investment standpoint that I think you want to be investing in anyway, because they have the soft skills that you can't teach somebody. They already have kind of literally battle-tested experiences. They have the mental don't quit. They're not going to be soft about anything because nothing is life and death on the private sector side in general, right? Compared to what they've been through. And so I love that they already have the mental grit and the capacity that it takes to run a business. Like running business is hard, right? But is it as hard as being in combat? Probably not, right? But it's hard, and you need mental grit and you need that capacity to do that. And these guys and gals are already literally battle tested. And I love that they're now going into private sector to create this technology.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's cool to see you guys kind of like helping them out and just a little bit of feel good that goes out into that space. Now, how did you get into the GP?
So I initially came into the fund as an LP, actually. And
That's so cool.
so I was initially an LP, and literally 2 days later, after like onboarding and everything, I called Justin Nahama back. He's one of the GPs. I called him back and I said, "What's it going to take for me to be a GP?" And he's like, "Really not how it works." He's like, "We can just turn all of our LPs into GPs." And I said, "Look, I've been looking for a way to get into venture capital for a long time. Because prior to that, I'd angel invested for about 7 years, just writing small checks, like 25K, 50K checks individually. And I said, I've been wanting to get into VC in a meaningful way. Short from starting my own fund, with other partners. I love everything that you guys are doing. There's just a lot of alignment here for me. And I think I can be a value add. I think I can bring in more LPs. I think I can help with due diligence side, having been an operator and knowing what it takes. And I'm down to be on like a multi-decade journey with you guys, right? This is fund one. So I'm not asking for equal equity. Like you guys have done the work to stand this thing up and, get things off the ground. I'm willing to take less in fund one. We'll talk about fund two down the road,
Yeah.
But I'm willing to
You're a
prove
negotiator.
myself.
I love it.
Said I'm willing to prove myself. It's fund one. Let me prove myself and show that I'm willing to be on a multi-decade journey with you guys through the course of many funds down the road. And he was just like, "You're not going to let this go, are you?" And so I actually flew out here to San Diego because Justin and Mike are based out here, and then Ryan's in the Bay Area. Ryan flew down, and all of us met here in San Diego in person to sit down and talk about, hey, what does it look like? How do we structure? How do we make room for me on the cap table for fund one? And let's figure this out. And this was 2 years ago. And it's been an incredible journey.
I love it. And speaking of Mike, we got to get him on the podcast.
Oh,
but
he's great. Yeah.
yeah, he is great. I got a chance to hang out with him. It was after the Fastlane event last August. We were all at Jalen's place for the afters, and
What an
he was
incredible
there.
property, too.
Yeah.
Wow. It's beautiful.
It's funny. She traded me cars for like a little bit last week. So I was driving her.
Oh, yeah. I
was
saw
driving
your
her
story.
Lamborghini
Yeah.
STO.
Yeah.
And
Well, car
she
swap.
wanted to drive my G-Wagon. She was like, "Oh my God, I've always wanted to have a G-Wagon." She's like, "Can we swap?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Sure."
Yeah.
I think I'm getting the better end of that trade there. And then I've never met her ex-husband, but I guess I never met this guy. I don't know him, but this is like 3 days after the swap. Everyone's blowing up my phone, and I'm like, "What the hell's going on?" Everyone in Fastlane is blowing up my phone. And they're like, "Hey, have you seen like Jalen's ex-husband's like story?" I'm like, "No, I don't even know who the guy is." And I guess he like drove by her house and saw my car parked out front. And so he was put on his story on Instagram, like, who drives a G-Wagon with the license plate SC
Stop
Wagon?
it.
Yeah.
No.
And so everyone's like, yo.
Oh,
Right.
This is how rumors get started. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Jalen's like,
Jeez.
hey, you might want to, if you have a spare key, you might want to send like a buddy to go pick up your car. I just don't want something to happen to it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I was
It's
like,
like that?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. She's like, I'm so sorry for the
man.
drama. She's
Oh,
like, blah, blah.
no.
So we ended up swapping back the next morning. But it is
no.
what it is. I don't know the guy, but I guess he was a little bit upset about that. I don't know. I don't think he knows
Just
who I
a
am
car
either.
swap.
Yeah, who cares?
Car swap.
Yeah. Anyways, so I thought that was crazy. But anyways, I think that's cool that you got in the GP, and you have a lot of value to provide. You have a big network, and so I'm sure there's a lot that you're bringing to the table, and that's what makes a win-win partnership.
Definitely. Yeah. I just was like, hey, like, what can I do, right? What can I do to bring value? Here's what I think I can do. And like, I'm down to prove myself in this first fund. And then let's talk about more equal partnership,
Yeah.
down the line.
Absolutely. Well, Lisa, I appreciate you coming on the pod. I'm a big fan of everything you're doing, and maybe next time we connect, I'll have to be out in Vegas. But
Please.
where can the folks get in touch with you?
You can follow me on social at Lisa Song Sutton, and of course my website, lisasongsutton.com.
And real quick, how come the Sutton? I know you're not married.
Yeah, so Sutton is my dad's name. So
Okay,
I'm
got
Korean
it.
American.
Got it.
Yeah,
Got
so
it.
Song is my middle name, and it's my mom's maiden name.
Okay,
So
that makes a lot of
yeah, I
sense.
just go by my full name usually.
Well, there it is. She's Lisa Song Sutton. I'm Rich Summers. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.